Welcome to the Redeemer University podcast. I'm your host, Zach, and today we are going to be talking with Redeemer's admissions manager, Sarah Freer. If it is your first time here, make sure to like and subscribe. Find us on your podcast platform of choice, and feel free to check out some of our other episodes that explore various aspects of Redeemer, Christian education, and so much more. Thank you for making us part of your day, and with that, here we go. I have with me the one, the only, our admissions manager of Redeemer University, Sarah Freer. How are you, Sarah?
I'm good, Zach. How are you?
So good. I'm so glad. I've been excited for this episode. This
Amazing.
is, for those of you who are listening or watching on YouTube, we are talking about the admissions application process today. We'll have some tips and tricks in there, some just general, best practices. I will point out, if you're an international student listening, thank you. But we do have a separate video and podcast episode for international students with our admissions counselor, Annika. She did a great job. There'll be a link for that in the description below. And you can check that out on all of our platforms. But Sarah, today we're talking about the admissions process for direct at a high school students, domestic students, Canadian students. We're excited about it. We love it. I guess let's just start with, can you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself? And did you go to Redeemer? How'd you become an admissions manager?
For sure, Zach. So I did go to Redeemer, and yes, my name is Sarah, as you said earlier, but I went to Redeemer. I did a double major in history and psychology with an English minor when I was a student at Redeemer, and I loved my time at Redeemer so much. I think it was in second year, I started as a student worker in the admissions department. And through doing that job as a student worker, I was like, whoa, people get to work in admissions as a job and get to just share about like their experience and how passionate they are about Christian education and Redeemer. I want to do that. So actually shortly after that, I knew like that was what I wanted to do after my time at Redeemer. And then when I graduated a few months later, I was able to start as an admissions counselor. And then this past fall, I started as admissions manager, which is something I was very excited for. So, yeah.
Awesome. And we're thrilled to have you in that role. And I know that many students don't always see the behind the scenes and what it takes to get a student to actually be, from a high school student to a university student, and a lot of work goes into that. But anyway, we're going to talk a little bit about how do you apply to Redeemer? What are some of the best practices? So let's maybe just start with that simply. And I am going to pull up here our website here. So we'll just add this. So in the simplest way, how would you explain someone who's in high school right now? They're thinking about applying to Redeemer. How do they do it? Do they just go to our website like this?
Yeah, definitely. So you did a great job by pulling up the website. You can see the top right corner. You see this apply button. So it's right there. So it's super easy. Exactly. So if you go down a bit, amazing. You can start your application.
It's so easy.
Exactly. So easy for our students. And yeah, you just fill out some kind of general information to start about your program you're interested in and all of that. And then the application will be started for you with your account.
And if I'm out of high school, do I want to select undergrad degree here?
Yes, like it depends. So an undergraduate degree is, your 4-year bachelor's degree.
Right.
So as long as you haven't already been to school and graduated with a degree, we have our undergraduate degree program, and then we have our bachelor's of education, which is after that. So.
Right. Okay. That makes sense. Yeah. Okay. So again, really straightforward. And the reason we share this here is, I'll stop sharing there, is how are we different because we are a private Christian institution. How is that
Mhm.
different than applying to like a public university or college?
For sure. Yeah. So in Ontario, at least, the way that it's done is that for public universities and colleges, you apply directly through their system, and you can apply for many different ones at once. But because Redeemer is a Christian university, we are separate, like you just mentioned. But it is very accessible. And the really cool thing is that we do have a free application as well up until January 31st.
Great.
So
Okay.
that's a nice little benefit as well.
Yeah, and I know we're going to talk a little bit more about deadlines, but again, that's just a good tip for anyone
Mhm.
listening is applying before January 31st. It's a free application to Redeemer. A lot of schools you'll have to pay to apply to a bunch of them, and I know that the system that you apply to public schools in Ontario is called OUAC, and
Yes,
so what you're saying is we are separate from that system.
exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
No, that's good to know. And again, for students who say they're applying to three public institutions, can they still apply to Redeemer on top of that? Like because we are outside of it?
Yes, definitely. So that's what some students will do. They'll decide to pay the fee on OUAC and apply to their three institutions and apply to Redeemer, or some students just apply directly to us as well. So there's a
Okay.
couple different options there, but
Cool.
yeah.
No, that's great. And I guess that just goes to show it is a little bit different. And there's many differences about Redeemer, but in regards to applying for Redeemer, what would you say is the best time for a student to apply?
For sure. I would say honestly as early as possible.
Mhm.
So our application opens typically in August,
Yeah.
and I'm not saying you need to like immediately apply the next day or anything like that, but I would say like the earlier you can, the better. Just because you have an admissions counselor who's there to walk you through the process, and right away you're starting the application and you have someone there to help you as you go. We do have a few like deadlines in place as well that help you with that. So I don't know if you want me to touch on that right now, Zach.
Yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
perfect. So I always encourage students to apply by December 15th. Because if you are a student coming directly from high school, you actually qualify for a $100 textbook credit if you have finished your application and if we've received your transcript by December 15th. And as we mentioned earlier, Zach, we said, there's a free application until January 31st. So not only are you getting that textbook credit, you're still applying for free
yeah.
as well. So I always tell students apply by that deadline, even if you're not like for sure set on Redeemer, just to keep that option open because a $100 textbook credit always helps.
Absolutely, and I think that's a really good point that sometimes students maybe don't realize is you applying to a university is not you accepting to go there, right? Like, and
Exactly.
and and the earlier you can apply to give yourself the option, the better, right?
Mhm.
And so I always think if students aren't 100% decided on coming to Redeemer or other schools, just giving themselves the option by applying as early as possible is best practice in their application process.
Oh, I agree. Yeah, I was just talking to some students today about what I every year I have some students that will reach out to me after all the deadlines and say, "Hey, I still want to apply to come to Redeemer." Which is so great.
Yeah,
Obviously, I still want them to come and apply. But at that point, they've missed the free application and the textbook credit. So they can still apply, but they're just not getting those incentives anymore. So
totally.
keep
Yeah.
those options open.
So what about just before we move on from deadlines? So the December 15th application deadline, and then there's the January 31st, fee waiver deadline. Are there
Mhm.
any other deadlines that students applying should be aware of?
Yeah, so I would say for sure the February 28th deadline,
Okay,
which is financial aid.
that's a big one.
um,
Yep.
yeah, definitely important there. Yeah, so I would say just keep that in mind as well, just because you never know what scholarships or bursaries you could potentially qualify for. So,
Definitely, yeah. And then so again, if anyone listening or watching, if you have any questions about these deadlines or application process, feel free to always reach out to us at admissions at
mhm.
redeemer.ca, and we're always happy to set up an appointment with an admissions counselor to talk you through anything. But in regards to certain applicants from different high schools, and maybe you're a transfer student or something, what are some of the events that we at Redeemer put on for prospective students throughout the school year?
For sure. So we have lots of different options, I would say. We have open houses. So we do have an open house in November that's happening, which will be really exciting. We typically have lots of students that come out for that. I would say, though, that open houses, like, definitely come if it's your first time on campus or anything like that. But if you have already been on campus before, you should definitely come to our campus visit day.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, because open houses are kind of like your first experience, your first taste of Redeemer. A campus visit day happens on a Friday or sometimes a Wednesday, and it's happening during school hours. So you get to sit in on a class, and you get to have lunch with a professor, and you get to just really see what the school is like when the students are around. Um, Another cool opportunity that we have for students later on in the year, in April, is we do have Admitted Student Day.
Sorry,
Yeah.
everyone, I get excited. I love Admitted Student Day. Sort of
Me
interrupted
too.
it.
Yeah. So I guess it's kind of clear through the title, but basically it's a day for our admitted students. Our students who have been admitted to Redeemer already, they haven't necessarily accepted their offer. Some of them have, some of them haven't. And it's a day that we just dedicate to them, and we get to celebrate, like, you were admitted to Redeemer, and we really want you to be a student here next year. Like, let's just celebrate that. So it's always really exciting, and it's just definitely a different feel from the other days, just because there's so many admitted students in the room. So
Yeah, and it's your first opportunity to get to meet, students who are coming from all
yes.
different walks of life, and
Mhm.
but they all, have that Christian, foundation in their life. And so getting to meet new friends, make those lifelong relationships, it can be, the first time. And I know, many people who, they've started their, friendships with someone that
Mhm.
started because they met on that admitted student day.
Yeah, each year the admissions counselors, right after admitted student day, will get some emails from students of, I met this person and I
Yeah.
want to be their roommate now, or that kind of thing.
Well, and even like I think, we plan lots of fun games and events. Like last year we had laser tag and pizza,
Mhm.
and it's just I know we had a parent event. So if parents come, we kind of have some seminars and workshops for them, which I know are always well received as well. And on that note, all these events we're talking about, whether it's our campus visits or our open house, admitted student day, can parents come to these events? Like, is that
Oh, definitely. Yes. Yeah, parents are always welcome to come to these events, and there will be options for them in the sign up form when a student signs up to come along as well. And yeah, parents, we'd love for you to have your questions answered too. For campus visit days, we often break up parents and students for a little bit, so
mm,
the students are sitting in on the classes, and the parents have some sessions more specific to them.
totally
So they're definitely great environments for parents to come to.
awesome? And one of the things I love, like, sometimes if there's like two families from like the same town, like
Mhm.
I like off the top of my head, I remember there was a student that was interested, and they were coming from Chatham, and someone from their church was also interested. So the two students came, and then both their parents came, and they all kind of made like a fun trip of it. And they
Mhm.
came to one of our visit days here in Hamilton, and then they maybe did something like shopping or something in Hamilton afterwards. But it really is a great time, and I think I think that's one of the best things you can do when you're looking at universities is go and visit, right?
Mhm.
You know,
Definitely.
because you can look through all the pictures online and watch podcasts like this. Thanks for listening and watching. But there's something to be said about a student actually going to the school and see if they can see themselves there. Have you seen that with students who come and actually tour Redeemer?
Yes. I always see that, and, I actually I'll just confess that I didn't do that when I was looking into schools. I was very nervous, and when I was in high school, I was like, "Oh, man, I can't do this." Like, that's terrifying, and I actually really regret it. Like,
Mm,
I obviously am so thankful that I chose Redeemer, but even coming to Redeemer and then not having had, like, a tour beforehand, I realized, oh, there's some things that I didn't know about the school. So I always encourage students when I'm interacting with them at conferences or on the road, like, please come visit our campus, but also like make a list of your top three campuses or five sorry schools that you're hoping to maybe apply to, and then try and visit each of them.
totally.
um, yeah, and see them and compare them and just ask yourself, can I, picture myself being a student here? Because I feel like actually seeing the campus helps so much.
Totally. And in contrast, I was one of those people. I think I toured like 5 schools before I decided on Redeemer, and so I'm really glad that I got to go in and check out it, and it
Mhm.
just helps make an informed decision, right?
Oh, definitely. I agree.
Mm.
So.
Um, and then I will just say, like, do you? I know we've talked about a few things, and this is a lot of information, and uh, is there any like specific tips or advice that you would give? Say that student that's listening, they're in grade 12 or maybe 11 or 10, but they're thinking of applying to Redeemer next year. I know we've talked about applying as early as possible. Staying in touch with an admissions counselor is always a good way, to do. But are there any other additional kind of helpful tips you would advise people on?
I feel like there's so many tips. So, I would definitely say, pay attention to prerequisites for programs,
Yeah,
because every single school you're going to be applying to is going to have different requirements for specific programs. So on Redeemer's website, there is a page that talks about the prerequisites, and look at that. Look at our degree programs. What do we require if you're going to be a biochem major or a history major or business or whatever that is? Yeah, especially if you're in grade 10 or 11, make sure that you're setting yourself up for success. Also, yeah, you've touched on a lot of it, Zach, but visit.
yeah, you
Visit
did.
campus, and get engaged. When your admissions counselor reaches out to you, tell them the questions that you have. We can't help you if you don't tell us your questions or the things that maybe you're really unsure about. So have that open dialogue with your admissions counselor so they can support you and so they can get you connected with who you need to be connected with. If you have questions about housing or learning services or what Redeemer does, how they support their students in terms of like jobs or anything like that, ask those questions so that we can support you and set you up for success.
Totally, absolutely, and especially when we are a drastically different experience than a
Hmm.
large public institution, right? And we don't try and be a large institution. We recognize we are a smaller institution, around 1,100 students, and I think there's so many benefits that come with that we can offer as a smaller institution that a larger
Hmm.
school just can't, right?
Exactly.
Um, so just a couple of things here is are there any specific like we you talked about the admission requirements. What are the admission requirements for a student applying from high school directly to Redeemer?
Hmm. Yeah, so what we're looking for, and it's on our website. So if you have questions after this, feel free to look. For a typical high school student, we'd be looking for 6 4U or 4M courses, one including English 4U, and we would be looking for a 65 average or higher.
Okay.
I will say right off the bat, like that's the Ontario requirements. So if you're listening to this and you're from BC or New Brunswick or wherever, we do have requirements listed on our website for you as well. And then another thing, like I had just mentioned a few minutes ago, is that we do have some specific requirements for certain programs. So if you're applying to our health sciences program, we do want to make sure that you've taken some sciences and a calculus and that kind of stuff beforehand. So for some of our programs, there are more specific requirements, but those are listed on the degree programs page on our website.
Awesome. And that's again really good to know about the prerequisites. So there are kind of the general admission requirements,
Mm-hmm.
but then for specific programs, a science program or some of the business programs, there
Mm-hmm.
are prerequisite courses that are a little bit above and beyond what the general requirements are.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's
Exactly.
good to know. Um, One other thing here, and I'm sorry I didn't send you this ahead of time, but could you just maybe describe the difference between applying for a general degree or an honors degree?
Yeah, definitely. So when you're applying to a general degree, it's that 65 average that I mentioned that we're looking for those courses and a 65 average or higher. But an honors program is more intensive and more specific. So likely an honors program often will have more program requirements, but also for an honors, we'd be looking for an average of 80 or higher as well.
Okay.
Yeah. So, for example, our kinesiology program at Redeemer is an honors program, whereas our physical education program, which falls under the bracket of kinesiology, is a general. So, yeah, we try to tell students that as much as possible, just to once again set them up well. But if for some reason someone doesn't meet the entrance requirements right away, there sometimes is the possibility of if they're able to maintain that average at Redeemer, switching into it afterwards.
Awesome. And you know what? I am gonna just in the interest of showing people what they can do. So I'm gonna
Mhm.
share my screen here. Just a little bit here to our degree programs. And this is again all available on redeemer.ca, our great
Yeah.
website. So if you go down to programs, so I just clicked on academics, clicked on degree programs, and here you'll see all of our degree programs listed here, whether they're offered in a major or a minor,
Mhm.
or an honors major here. And we'll maybe just go with something. I see biblical and theological studies here, so we're just going to click on that. And if you go to, and again, this is going to be different for each program here. And
Mhm.
Sarah, I'm going to maybe have you talk about. I'm going to bring up the degree map and talk about
Yeah.
the core just a little bit here. And again, if you want to talk to your admissions counselor close to you. So if you scroll down to quick links here and just go on degree map, these will look different for each program, but this is just for the biblical and theological studies degree map for a general BA. Sarah, could you maybe talk about what this looks like a little bit?
Definitely. So this is something I love talking about actually. So because Redeemer is a Christian liberal arts and science university, which means, we recognize the importance of a variety of disciplines. We have a core program, and it's a set of 10 courses that every student at Redeemer gets to take, regardless of if they're in business or health sciences or psychology or whatever it is. So this degree map shows what this biblical and theological studies student would be taking over their 4 years. So first, if you see those yellow hexagons, those actually represent those core courses that I just mentioned. So you can see they're scattered throughout this student's time at Redeemer. And there's 10 courses. They start with 4 in their first year, and they're down to 1 by their last year. Um, and then if you keep looking at that degree map, you have the dark blue hexagons, and those show your major courses. So your major in as in, that subject that you want to study the most, that is typically 10 to 18 courses. So you see that on the degree map. So this student, once again, would be studying biblical and theological studies. And then you have these gray hexagons. And those are those leftover hexagons that can be used for a variety of different things. So with some students, they'll take 1 minor out of it. And a minor is typically 6 to 8 courses. And it's that secondary area that you're also interested in studying. But often students will fit more than 1 minor. So they might fit a second minor in, or they might just take a bunch of electives in those gray hexagons. Or sometimes students will double major also. So there's lots of different options for this student specifically. But each degree map, if you go onto our website, will look a little bit different.
Totally, and you did a great job explaining that. And we will just show briefly here. I just pulled this up because it was close by. This here is the biochemistry degree map, which is an Bachelor of Science honors program. And you can see there's a lot more courses that are required to take.
Very different.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. So that just, and again, everyone, this is all available on our website. And if you want to know more detail, feel free to reach out to us at admissions@redeemer.ca, and we'll be happy to chat with you. But Sarah, do you have anything else for our listeners or viewers at all?
I would just say, I guess, if there are prospective students listening right now, as we share this, that, yeah, I just want them to know that, like, it's okay if they're unsure right now. And I think that's why, like, this podcast is helpful, but also just connecting with admissions counselors at the schools they're interested in. Because I remember being in high school, like, how on earth am I supposed to decide what to do for the rest of my life?
Yeah.
And like the reality is, people like say it all the time, but you get to you get to choose, but also people often change career paths, and there's options, and yeah, I guess going into grade 12, it feels stressful, and often it is, but also you get lots of really cool opportunities to check out different programs and different schools, and ask these questions that maybe you've never thought of before. So yeah, I'm thinking of all of you students, and you've got this, and God's got this. And yeah, I'm really excited for all of you.
Awesome. And again, if you are listening or watching, feel free to reach out to us. Link will be in the description below. But admissions@redeemer.ca, we would love to set up an appointment with an admissions counselor with you and your friends or your family, and just give you information about studying at Redeemer University.
Definitely.
But Sarah, this has been so much fun. This has been awesome. Thank you so much for coming on and talking about the admissions process here. And we will see you all in the next episode.
Awesome. Thanks, Zach.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Redeemer University podcast. Thank you again, Sarah, for sharing some amazing admissions tips and some advice for students who are looking into university. We hope you've enjoyed our conversation as much as we did. If you would like more information about Redeemer, please check out our website at redeemer.ca. And you can always connect with the admissions department by emailing admissions@redeemer.ca if you're interested in applying. God bless, and we'll see you in the next episode.